Hello, so I'm just going to do a quick little introduction to slants. So obviously there are a couple things to consider. So first thing, we use dots when we do slants because it makes them easier. But if you can see right now, there are two sets of slant lines. So the most prominent is the white ones. So if you can see like these rows of stones that are light, these are the prominent ones which we use. These are the actual slant lines. But you can also see there's actually darker ones right here. So these dark ones we call half slant lines. We don't typically use these, but a lot of people get confused and they will be going on these steeper ones instead of on the lighter ones. So if you see someone drifting in a slant, oftentimes they're using the wrong set, so they're not using these, they're using the steeper ones. So it's a bit easier when you have your dots on, which is why we always use them. So now you can very clearly see there are lines of dots that go across the arena. So we can see a line here. But once again, if we were to turn our camera this way, you can see the half slant lines which go like this. So the dots are further spaced, but they are still lining up, in a line. You can see them again this way. So that's how come sometimes people get confused. So we just want to make sure that we're telling anybody who's using the slant lines that it is the light ones and it's the ones that have the dots more regularly spaced. So as you can see, the intervals between these dots is a lot more frequent than the ones between the half slant lines. It's a much bigger space to get to these dots. So those are the ones that we use. Okay. So I'm just going to take you through all of the different slants and how to explain them. So first one we have is just a typical slant. So this is a 45-degree turn in the direction called. Next we have a comb or a cut, but for the sake of slant moves it would be a comb. So that's a 90-degree turn in the direction called. Then we have a back slant, which is in between a comb and over curl or curl over. This is a 135-degree turn in the direction called. Then we have our over curl. So this is half of a curl, obviously 180 degrees. Then we have our fish. So fish, easiest way I find to explain this is one that gets often confused, is it's in between an over curl and a keyhole. Because pretty much everybody knows these two moves. So obviously a keyhole is 3/4 of a curl. And then we have our over curl here. So it is the slant line in between those two. The other way you can explain it is a bear, but you keep going on that slant. So you don't straighten up. Because if I were to do a bear, I'd do my over curl and then I'd be going back towards my original track and then straightening up when I hit center line. But obviously, when you're doing a fish, you don't straighten up. You just keep going this way. So, yeah, one way makes sense to some people and, the other way makes sense better in some other people's head. Anyway, so yeah, then we have the keyhole, which is 3/4 of a curl. And then we have a ribbon. Ribbon is one slant away from a full curl. So obviously this would be a full curl. So it's one slant before. Another way to explain it is it's in between keyhole and a full curl. So as people are going around, you can say, so you're going to go past where a keyhole is, and it's that next set of slant lines, and then it's here. So obviously those were all to the left. You have the same thing to the right. So you have a slant, a comb, back slant, over curl, fish, keyhole, and ribbon. Okay, so with those explained nice and simply, with a basic explanation of what they are. Another thing you can do if you need to work out doing a slant from a slant, there are a couple ways you can do it. So I'm going to explain how I think it's easiest to work out doing a slant from a slant when you're on your own. So when you're stood here, as you go around to each slant that we just went through, you can count. So I can go slant, okay, 1, comb, 2, back slant, 3, over curl, 4, fish, 5, keyhole, 6, and ribbon, 7, and then obviously our full curl. So if I were to go on this slant and I want to do a fish to the left, and I'm not sure where that's going to put me, I can just count. I can go, okay, so I know that fish is 5 slants to my left if I'm doing a fish left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So fish is going to put me this way. So if we just do that in action, it would be like this. You go all the way around until you end up this way. So again, obviously if I do it to the right, I'm going to end up a different direction because we are on a slant. So if I count again, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that a fish right is going to put me this way. So that is honestly the easiest way to practice a fish from a slant, in my opinion, because you cannot go wrong. If you're counting each individual slant, there's no way you can mess it up, because we know that fish is 5 slants, like 5, of the slant lines round to the direction that you're going. So with that knowledge, we can just go to each slant and count our way round until we get to where we've hit number 5, and then we know that's where the fish goes. So with ribbon, obviously you can do the exact same thing if you want to. You can count your way around, so you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way around to 7. But personally, what I find easier to do is we know that a ribbon is 1 slant away from a full curl. So what that means, I'm just going to go on the straight for a sec. So if we did a ribbon left, we would go all the way around until we reach this slant here. Now, what else would we call this? Obviously, if we were just going straight, this is a slant right. So we know that doing a ribbon left puts you on the right-hand slant line. So that's 1 slant away from a complete curl, aka 1 slant to the right of where we originally started. So if we go back over here onto our slant lines, and I want to do a ribbon left, I now immediately know, okay, so I'm going to end up 1 slant to my right as of currently. So if I just count 1 slant to my right, boom. So I'm going to end up this way. So I now know exactly where I'm going to go after I do my ribbon. I'm going to literally end up right here. If I were to do a ribbon right, once again, I know it's going to end up 1 slant to my left. So I know that's going to put me there. So nice and easy. I think ribbon is by far easier to do on a slant than a fish because it's a lot more straightforward. So I would recommend thinking of it that way for a ribbon. But you can count your way around if you find that too hard to visualize. So last thing to cover pretty much is doing a slant one way and then a slant the other way. So if I were to do a back slant left, it would put me here. Because I'm now on a slant, if I were to do a back slant right, it does this weird thing where I'm going to actually end up straight again. So if I was to do a back slant right from here, it's going to put me this way. So if we think about why that is, then it's obviously, if we count our way around, if we want to check, which way we're going to end up, we can go, okay, so 1, 2, 3. So if I were to count obviously 3 to the right from here, then it's going to put me right there. So there are a few moves that this happens with. So you've got obviously a back slant one way and a back slant the opposite way. That makes you go straight. A fish one way obviously puts you onto here, and then if you do your fish your other way, it's going to make you go straight again. And lastly, when you do your ribbon, it happens here as well. So obviously that is one ribbon, and then when you do your second ribbon, which puts you one slant to your left, that's going to put you here. And it also does happen with keyhole. So if I were to keyhole left, it's going to put me here. And then if I just think about where's keyhole right going to put me, once again, it's going to put us back on our original track. So we're going to be facing this way again. So back slant one way and then the other, keyhole and fish and ribbon will all put you straight again. So for move names, that is an N for the back slant, scale for the fish, lock for the keyhole, and ruffle for the ribbon. So those are the easiest ones to do, in my opinion, because you always know exactly where you're going to end up. Then we have, more difficult ones to do, like there is a move called shark. Shark is a fish in the direction called. So if I were to just quickly do it, you would do a fish, say we're doing it left, so shark left, do a fish left, and now I have to ribbon the opposite way. So if I'm confused where I'm going to end up, I know I'm doing a ribbon right, and I know that's going to put me one slant to the left. So I know I'm going to end up towards the B wall. So I'm going to go all the way around. Boom, done, easy. So I think that's everything. Obviously, last thing, slant alignment. You want to be front hooves to front hooves with the horse in front of you. So if there was a horse, say on that dot in front of me, and we go into a slant, I want my back hooves to be aligned with that horse's back hooves, and my front hooves to that horse's front hooves. And then to the instructor, that will create a slanting line of horses going down the line. So hopefully that all makes sense. I think that's basically everything with slants. So yeah, anyway, I hope that's helpful.